In 2016, Manchester United paid £89 million for a footballer. Not a guarantee, not a proven winner, a promise. And for the next 6 years, the football world watched that promise slowly, painfully collapse. This is the story of Paul Pogba. Not the highlights reel, not the brand, the real story of a player who had everything and somehow lost it all. Paul Pogba was born in Lagny-sur-Marne, France in 1993, the youngest of triplets. His two brothers, Matthias and Florentine, would also become professional footballers. But it was Paul who was different from the beginning. At 6'4", with the touch of a player half his size, Pogba moved like football hadn't quite seen before. A midfielder who could defend, create, score, and dominate physically, all in the same 90 minutes. Manchester United spotted him young. He joined their academy at 16. The future looked inevitable. But then, United made a mistake they would spend a decade regretting. In 2012, with his contract expiring and first-team opportunities limited, Pogba walked away from Old Trafford for free. Sir Alex Ferguson called it a disappointment. Others called it a warning United ignored. He landed at Juventus. And that's where Paul Pogba became Paul Pogba. 4 consecutive Serie A titles. Dominant, consistent, unplayable on his best days. The football world watched and asked the same question. How did Manchester United let this happen? By 2016, they were about to answer that question with their wallet. £89 million, a world record at the time. The prodigal son was coming home. The 2018 World Cup was everything Pogba's critics said he'd never be. Composed, decisive, a leader. In the final against Croatia, with France trailing at halftime, it was Pogba who took control. His goal in the second half helped France to a 4-2 victory. World champion, 25 years old. The best was surely still to come. But watch that tournament carefully, and you notice something important. Pogba thrived inside a system that protected him. With Conte behind him doing the defensive work, Pogba was free. Free to create, free to drive forward, free to be the player everyone believed he was. That context mattered more than anyone admitted at the time. Because back at Manchester United, that protection didn't exist. The system wasn't built around his strengths, and the results told the story. Flashes of brilliance, weeks of invisibility, a new manager every 18 months, Mourinho publicly criticizing him, Pogba publicly questioning Mourinho, a dressing room that felt like a building slowly catching fire. Here's what separates the good from the truly great, and where Pogba's story becomes genuinely painful. Greatness requires obsession. It requires sacrifice. It requires the ability to silence everything outside the white lines and just perform. Pogba couldn't do it, or wouldn't. The line between those two things is something only he knows. The agent circus around Mino Raiola, one of football's most disruptive figures, meant transfer speculation followed Pogba every single summer. Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain, Juventus, every window, every year. It was destabilizing. Whether Pogba drove it or Raiola did, the effect was the same. A player who never fully committed. A fan base that never fully trusted him. His injury record worsened. Seasons reduced to cameos. The moments of magic became rarer. And with each passing year, the gap between what Pogba was supposed to be and what he actually was grew wider and more uncomfortable to look at. In 2022, he left Manchester United for the second time. Again, for free. The symmetry was brutal. He returned to Juventus, a homecoming, a chance to rediscover himself. It never happened. Injuries destroyed his season before it began, and then came the news that stopped everything. In September 2023, Paul Pogba tested positive for testosterone, a banned substance. The initial ban, 4 years. Effectively a career death sentence at 30 years old. Reduced on appeal to 18 months, but the damage was done. Not just to his career, to his legacy, to the story people wanted to tell about him. It's easy to write Paul Pogba off as a waste, as a cautionary tale about ego, about distraction, about a player who prioritized everything except football. But that feels too simple, too convenient, because the talent was real. The 2018 World Cup was real. Those performances at Juventus, they were real. What failed Pogba wasn't ability. It was the accumulation of everything around it. The noise, the expectations, the system, the decisions, the people. And perhaps, if we're being fully honest, Pogba himself. The saddest thing about Paul Pogba isn't the doping ban. It isn't the failed return to United. It isn't the injuries. It's this. We never actually saw the best version of him. Not consistently. Not for long enough to know what he truly could have been. And that, for a player of his gifts, is the heaviest verdict of all. Paul Pogba is 31 years old. Whether he plays again at the highest level, only time will answer. But the question that will follow him forever isn't whether he was good enough. It's whether he ever truly believed he was.